It is difficult to imagine how isolated and immense the National Wildlife Refuges of Alaska are. You can fly for hours and not see a sign of human presence. Not a road, not a cabin, just green carpets of forests. Huge expanses of wetlands sparkling in the sun. Broad rivers, snow-capped mountains, and vast tracts of rolling Arctic tundra. These marvelous lands are the breeding grounds for millions of the nation's song and shorebirds, the cradle for much of the continent's waterfowl, and home to a dazzling array of seabirds. Wolves, bears, caribou, moose, walrus, to name just a few magnificent mammals, thrive on refuge lands. Each year, tens of millions of salmon return to spawn in refuge waters, waters that are also alive with rainbow trout, Arctic grayling, northern pike, and more. These lands and waters are a wondrous gift we have given ourselves. Precious places where our natural heritage is being conserved and protected. Let us celebrate the National Wildlife Refuges of Alaska. Around the turn of the century, sportsmen and others across the nation became concerned about how rapidly America's wildlife was disappearing, victims of unregulated hunting and loss of habitat. Even egrets were being slaughtered just to decorate women's hats. In 1903, President Theodore Roosevelt directed that Pelican Island in Florida be set aside as a federal wildlife preserve to protect egrets and other wading birds from the plume hunters. A few years later, President Roosevelt ordered that land be set aside in Alaska to protect sea mammals and seabirds that were also being overhunted. In 1980, President Carter signed the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, which set aside 104 million acres of federal land as national wildlife refuges, national parks, and other areas for conservation. 54 million of those acres went to establish 9 new national wildlife refuges in Alaska and added land to 6 of the 7 existing ones. These new refuges became part of the National Wildlife Refuge System, a system of more than 500 refuges spanning the nation, dedicated to conserving and protecting our fish and wildlife and the places they love for everyone to enjoy. While Alaska has only 16 refuges, they represent 85% of the combined national acreage. Let's take a tour of Alaska's national wildlife refuges. We'll begin with a visit to Alaska Maritime. 3,000 islands, ocean spires, and headlands along the coast and scattered across the seas of Alaska make up this unique refuge. Much of the refuge is on the 1,100-mile-long Aleutian chain, volcanic islands set in a storm-lashed but food-rich sea, perfect for seabirds. Seabirds spend their lives on the open ocean and come ashore only to nest and raise their young. Most of the seabirds in North America, more than 40 million, nest on Alaska Maritime. Each species has its own nesting preference. Puffins in burrows near the tops of cliffs, murres on ledges, kittiwakes on the cliff face, and others among the boulders close to the water. One of the most spectacular seabird colonies that can readily be visited is on St. Paul, one of the Pribilof Islands in the Bering Sea. Scientists visiting the Aleutian Islands for research and management travel on the refuge's specially designed and scientifically equipped vessel, the Techlaw. Refuge biologists monitor seabird nesting activity at 10 sites. These surveys are the basis for determining population trends and provide early warning if a species is in trouble. Special efforts are made to help those species whose numbers are in decline. The refuge's greatest success was bringing back the endangered Aleutian Canada goose. This small relative of the common Canada goose was almost wiped out by foxes that fur trappers had released on their nesting islands. Today, there are more than 30,000 geese, and they are no longer listed as endangered. Izembek National Wildlife Refuge is a crucial resting and feeding area for the 250,000 birds that migrate through each year. The refuge was established to protect the Pacific black brant, a small coastal goose whose entire population stops at the refuge during migration. Here they fatten up on eelgrass before their long flight south. The wetlands of Izembek, along with Izembek Lagoon, a state game refuge, have been designated as wetlands of international importance. Birds are only part of what Izembek offers: caribou, bear, fox, salmon, and flowers. And we should not forget the sweeping views. Alaska Peninsula National Wildlife Refuge is a land of spectacular beauty, sculpted by volcanic fire, glacial ice, and near constant wind. This immense landscape is dominated by large volcanoes, part of the ring of fire that rims the Pacific Ocean. While some volcanoes are dormant, the activity of others continues. Evidence of the natural and turbulent forces that shape the land is everywhere. The scenic and rugged Ugashik caldera speaks of a colossal eruption in the recent geologic past. While high in the Khayalavik Mountains, the immense ice fields talk of a different force that continues to shape the land. For anglers and hunters, the isolated and rugged Alaska Peninsula Refuge offers a daunting but rewarding challenge. Many of the trophy barren ground caribou were taken on Alaska Peninsula. At the narrows between Upper and Lower Ugashik Lakes, the world's record grayling was caught.